Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
The Department of Statistics releases the annual GDP numbers.
The Ministry of Tourism signs agreements for those voluntary separation packages for managers of Grand Lucayan.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Topping news tonight, despite a slight increase in the country's gross domestic product last year, the numbers fell short of Ministry of Finance projections by 0.6%. Officials at the Department of Statistics released the latest figures today. Jasmine Brown reports.
Those GDP numbers showed that real growth in 2018 stood at 1.6%.
National Account Supervisor at the Department of Statistics, Tira Newbold, says the Bahamian economy is valued at more than $12 billion.
The preliminary results for 2018 reveal GDP of $12.424 billion in nominal dollars and $10.763 billion in real dollars. When compared to the same period of 2017, this represents an increase of 2.3% in nominal growth and real growth of 1.6%.
But that 1.6% falls short of the government's fiscal strategy report released in November 2018. That report forecasted real GDP growth in 2018 at 2.2%. Despite the 0.6% shortfall, Newbold says there was slight growth in GDP from 1.4% in 2017 to 1.6% in 2018.
An increase indicates that the economy is better than it was last year. There's an increase compared to 2017.
The numbers showed that 9 of the 7 industry groups contributed to the overall increase. They include real estate, wholesale and retail trade, accommodation, and food services, as well as financial and insurance services. For the real estate industry group, real value added increased by $16 million or 0.9% when compared to 2017. Wholesale and retail trade grew by $43 million or 3%. The financial services and insurance sectors grew by $42 million, and the biggest increase was seen in the accommodation and food services industry, which showed a combined increase of $253 million.
That would be directly related to increased tourists.
Newbold says the completion of the phased opening of the multi-billion-dollar BAHA project did make a significant contribution. The report also revealed growth in several sectors that contribute to real GDP growth. According to the report, household expenditure increased by $140 million. Nonprofit institutions serving households grew by $7 million. Exports of goods and services increased by $244 million, while imports of goods and services decreased by $23 million. A statement released on the Ministry of Finance's Facebook page on Monday afternoon pointed to the positives, saying private sector performance is driving positive economic growth. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
All right, thanks, Jasmine. Following a psychiatric evaluation at Sandilands Rehabilitation Center, the court has determined that the woman accused of kidnapping 4 boys in separate incidents earlier this year is fit to stand trial. It's on to the Supreme Court for 29-year-old Deidre Gibson, whose attorney bought her some time last month after he asked a magistrate that she be remanded to Sandilands for a mental evaluation. At that time, he said she had a history of mental illness and was treated at a medical facility in New York just last year. However, Monday morning, Magistrate Samuel McKinney was handed the report from her evaluation at Sandilands Rehabilitation Center that showed she is fit to enter a plea. Thus, the hairstylist was charged with 4 counts of abduction that involved little boys ages 3 to 8 years old. For 2 months, the string of abductions of young boys by a mystery woman who later dropped off the children unharmed puzzled both police and the public. Eventually, police arrested Gibson and said she confessed. However, on Monday morning, with her hands behind her back, Gibson shook her head and pleaded not guilty to all 4 charges. When asked about where she wished to be tried, she initially got into a back and forth with her attorney, Howard Thompson Jr., but eventually chose the Supreme Court. She was denied bail but can apply in the Supreme Court. As she was escorted out the courtroom, Gibson told the officer, "I hope they happy." She returns to court on June 24th for service of a voluntary bill of indictment. Meanwhile, 47-year-old Saron McQueen was charged with the May 4th murder of Baron Roberts. Roberts was shot as he and a group of others were sitting in front of an abandoned building along Hospital Lane. He was pronounced dead on scene. McQueen, in the plaid shirt and navy blue pants, was heckled by the victim's family outside court, who had a serious issue with him smiling as he was being escorted in the court complex. He was not required to enter a plea. However, his attorney Nathan Smith told Chief Magistrate Joyanne Ferguson Pratt that his client claims he had a plastic bag placed over his head while in police custody at CDU and forced to sign and make statements that are untrue. The magistrate took note. He was remanded to the Bahamas Department of Corrections and returns to court on June 19th. In other news, the government has agreed to a $4.4 million payout in voluntary separation packages for 91 managers at the Grand Lucayan Resort. Georgia Bin has more.
After months of negotiations, the Ministry of Tourism and union representatives have finally reached an agreement for those voluntary separation packages for managers of the Grand Lucayan Resort in Grand Bahama. According to the Minister of Tourism, those packages total over $4 million.
The managers will receive a total of $4.3 million. 3.6 of that, 3.7 of that will come approximately from the government, as it is the shareholder. The rest will come from monies that were put into an annuity plan by the hotel. So the employee will have the option to keep it in the annuity plan, or if they want to cash it out, they can cash it out.
During the negotiation phase, union representatives revealed that they were seeking roughly $5 million. However, negotiations stalled after Lucayan Renewal Holdings said it would not exceed its $3.2 million offer.
In terms of the severance, they got more than a month for every year that they worked, but not entirely for in totality for the period that they work.
Asked when workers could expect their first payment, Tiagler said it's up to the Ministry of Finance, but the first payout should be this month. The employees are currently still working for the resort, but once they receive their packages, they will no longer be employed.
The government, the minister, and his group, they maintain the employees' wage, their benefits, as far back from October or thereabouts. To me, that showed good faith.
Managers voted unanimously to accept the VSEP offer put forth by the government, according to Bahamas Hotel Managerial Association President Opie Ferguson, who was the lead negotiator for the managers.
Thank you, Giorgio. Immigration Minister Brent Simonet has taken issue with suggestions that the Bahamas could be ordered to change gender equality laws. During a hearing in Jamaica last week, Rapporteur on the Rights of Women and Persons of African Descent and Against Racial Discrimination, Margaret Macaulay, said they could order the Bahamas to amend its laws to create gender equality regarding how citizenship is passed on from parent to child.
I have difficulty when any international organization tries to force a sovereign country to do things which are not in the best interest of that country.
During that hearing on the treatment of migrants in the Bahamas, Rights Bahamas raised concerns over human rights abuses, illegal detention and deportation exercises, and the implementation of what they call racist and xenophobic policies. Simonet said illegal migration is a major problem, and it's important to examine the entire picture.
I think, unfortunately, we have to look at the total picture in the Bahamas. I don't think a number of persons fully appreciate the influx of illegal immigrants here in the Bahamas and the cost. So, for instance, a boatload of 100 persons arrive on our shore today. Are we supposed to let them walk around the street until we decide when to repatriate them?
Well, as senators debated the immigration amendment bill today, Attorney General Carl Bethel accused the opposition of crude race baiting and fear-mongering by seeking to block the bill. On Sunday, PLP Chairman Fred Mitchell said the party remains fundamentally opposed to the bill, which he believes is ill-conceived. He warned it would loosen the controls presently in place to protect the integrity of Bahamian borders and its workforce. However, Bethel hit back, calling the opposition stance aggressive and regressive.
The opposition have almost consistently adopted an extremely negative approach. The latest series of opposition moves are crudely designed, in my view, to foster racial divisions and to generate fear and mistrust in the minds of the public. in my view, is nothing short of crude race baiting and fear mongering. Yes. And as for the race baiting, let me say this unequivocally. This is not, as it was called in the other place, Brent's bill.
Mitchell called Bethel's comments unfortunate and insisted there is no race involved in their opposition to the bill.
We have not said a single word in this place, and therefore to characterize what we're doing as race baiting, I think is rather unfortunate. I call on the member to reflect on that characterization.
I'll reflect on
and choose.
I will reflect on
You should, and choose some other expression, because there's been no race baiting, and I want to make that abundantly clear. There's no race baiting. There's no race involved in this.
Bahamas Power and Light is announcing the first phase of its traffic management plan that will facilitate the move of its new Wärtsilä engines that will involve some road closures and traffic diversions. The power company will be moving the engine starting tonight at 9 o'clock and could take up to 9 hours. This is expected to happen for the next 4 nights. The convoy will move up to two generators each night. Starting at 9 p.m., the convoy will take 60 minutes to traverse ARAWAK Keyport along West Bay Street to Saunders Beach Roundabout. It will then move for just under 2 hours from Saunders Beach Roundabout to Bahama Boulevard. It's expected to take another 30 minutes to move from Bahama to Gladstone Road Roundabout. From Gladstone Road Roundabout to Old Fort Bay Roundabout is expected to take 3.5 hours. From Old Fort Bay Roundabout to the Mount Pleasant Western Road intersection is expected to take just over an hour. From the Mount Pleasant Western Road intersection to BPL's Clifton site is expected to take another hour and 45 minutes. The public is asked to avoid West Bay Street, Bahama Boulevard, John F. Kennedy Drive, and Western Road where possible for the next 4 nights. The next phase will move the actual engines. BPL says it will release details about that soon. No word on any shutdown in electricity services as a result of the movement. Still to come, the immigration minister also hitting back at the PLP over that controversial bill. Plus, the tourism minister confirms that 3 gaming operators are compliant. Stay tuned.